Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar, brought to you by Techstrong and HCL Volt MX. My name is Cody J. Brown, and I'm the host of Techstrong Learning. We have an exciting webinar ahead, but first I have a couple of housekeeping notes to cover. First, today's session is being recorded, so if you miss any of our discussion, or you'd like to rewatch or share with a friend, the on-demand recording will be made available shortly after we conclude our live session. If you have any questions, we want you to send those in to us using the Q&A tab, which can be found on the right side of your screen. That's also where you're going to find the chat tab, and that's where we want to encourage you to have some discussions with your fellow audience members. Let us know where you're from. Just let us know your thoughts throughout today's program. If you click on the Handouts tab, which can be found on the right side of your screen, you'll find a downloadable version of the slides. So feel free to download those to follow along with today's presentation. And before we close out, we will be giving away 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so be sure to stick around until the very end. Our topic today is Boost Your Java and JavaScript Skills with a Multi-Experience Platform. And I'm joined today by Daryl McDonald, who is the Volt MX Director at HCL Volt MX. Daryl, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to let you take it over from here.
Thanks, Cody. What we're going to do today, guys, is take a look at how we can take your existing Java and JavaScript skill set and expand upon it. So you could use that to develop native applications in iOS, Android, progressive web apps, and all at the same time bringing in all of the advanced features that we have today. The augmented realities, the chat bots, and even we're starting to now look around at some of these super apps and how they will play going forward, especially as we move into the metaverse. It's become the really hot topic. Like Cody said, I've been around this platform for over 12 years, and I've worked in a lot of spaces, including development and everything. And now I'm part of the go-to-market team for Volt MX. But before we get to Volt MX and things about it, let's look at what any multi-experience development platform can do and should do to help you. I mean, we're looking at basically getting data from any data source out to any device with no limitations. And that's the ultimate goal of any platform. And at the same time, we provide benefits to the organization and to you as the developers, because what we're looking at here is we're actually going to improve your ROI and developer productivity, which is what the organization is looking for, and at the same time be less reliant on all the specialized skill sets. Having an iOS team, an Android team, etc., bringing that under a single umbrella. And I sort of say this with a little bit tongue in cheek here, when I say having more control over your work-life balance, but in reality you can, because we want to spend more time innovating, less time maintaining, and definitely less time fighting fires. And another area that I'm an old-time developer as well, spend less time on security. The mundane things, because let the platform bake it in, handle all of that for you. And taking it in what we've seen, especially over the last few years, especially with COVID, is the growth of applications and devices has just skyrocketed. Whether you were a retail chain and you had to incorporate, buy online, pick up in store, or any of the commerce applications, or if you think about all the restaurants that went out there and moved to a limited menu with delivery only and things like that, there's one common theme around all of these. The people who adapted and who were able to change with the changing environment over the last couple of years are the ones that's still around today. So, again, we're seeing this in a continual basis here. If you can see here, just some examples of it here. And the other side of this growth is data, because, we're out here, data is everywhere we look nowadays, and taking that data and being able to utilize it in your applications. Because, when you start talking about a platform, there's really two sides to the puzzle. You've got the UI, UX, the look and feel and everything, and simplifying that and giving everybody what they expect is one side. Well, the other side is, how do I get to all this data? How do I simplify collection of data? If you go out and look at Gartner, they'll tell you that 50 to 60% of an application is in getting the data out to it. Whether you're looking at this chart here and your enterprise systems, which can run anywhere from a old IBM CICS mainframe to SAP to Salesforce, they're all dispersed and getting all of those enterprise systems to talk, bringing data in from the devices even. I mean, you talk about geolocation, geofencing, blockchain. Even there's a lot of buzz now around the metaverse. And when we talk about that, where are we going with things? In the one of the models I see says, okay, in the future, you're going to have your digital twin out there shopping. He's going to buy something for himself in the virtual mall, and then you're going to get a pop-up say, hey, would you like to order this for yourself? That type of thing. As everything comes together, this data is going to be a large part of it. Now, the one thing in here, and what we're going to do to look at this is sort of take a look in the day in the life, because applications have a tendency to grow from real simple in the beginning to very complex, and they can do this really quickly. I mean, you can look here, you're talking about, you got to have more secure, I need a SAP integration, I need Salesforce. All of these can come into a single app really easily. From this perspective, let's take a look at sort of the day in the life of an application and how it grows. So we've got here a couple of personas. I got Jim as a production manager at the Houston facility, and Ann is the local web developer there. And Jim's got a need, and he comes to Ann and says, can you help create me a web application that monitors downtime on line 1? And Ann says, sure, Jim, I can have you something in a couple of weeks. Okay, this is a simple beginning. Now, Ann is super successful. The app's great. Can you roll it out to all the lines in Houston? Ann sits back, thinks for a minute. Well, I sort of designed that special for line 1. It'll take me a few weeks to redesign it, and I'll have it up for all lines. Now, at this point, everything's going great. Jim comes in. He's bragging about it. Now, Lucas at the corporate headquarters learns of it, and he says, oh, this is going great. I like it. Let's roll it out to the whole organization. So he's coming to Ann, telling her what a great job she's done, and he wants to duplicate it for the enterprise, and at the same time, he wants to make a native app out of it. Okay. Now, at this point, Ann she's ecstatic. She's up here. She has gotten recognition at corporate level, and she says, sure, Lucas, who should I work with to transition the app? So at this point, here comes some of the complexity starting to roll in. He says, okay, I'd love you to work with Jonas on our HTML team, Christina on our native team, and while we're at it, have Suzanne review it for security compliance. So now we're starting to move into the corporate world, and we're getting more complexity. And at this point, Jonas comes to her and says, hey, Ann, some of our facilities aren't using the same monitoring system on the production lines that you are. Can we get the data from the multiple systems? Again, being able to collect data easily from dispersed sources. And Christina comes in, and she notices that all of the APIs being used are only available in the network. How can we expose them? Because, from a native perspective, I need to be able to get to them. And at this point, she also introduced this, and what if I wanted to make that application available offline so I didn't have to depend on connectivity? Again, complexity growing. And now here comes the deflator to Ann. I'm sorry, but your app doesn't meet our security standards, and we're going to need to harden it up. So now Ann has gone from super high to, oh, what do I got to, this complexity is just increasing in an exponential basis. And, as a developer, we've all lived this and seen this, maybe not this exact scenario, but something very similar. As we've done applications in the past. And now, we've got an application landscape that looks something like this. Now, I had a simple HTML app. Now I've got an HTML version. I've got an iOS version. I've got an Android version. And now I've got 3 versions of the app that I'm maintaining separately. I've got design, I've got security, I've got continuous implementation and deployments. And I've also introduced the fact that now that I'm into the native world, OSs and devices are ever changing. We've seen the upgrades. How do I keep up? So I've got a landscape that I'll give you an example. My brother is a development manager, and when he saw this slide, he said it gave him cold shivers because we, all come through this. And not only from an architectural basis, I've got all of these other areas that have got to come together, from being able to manage security, analytics, the API management. Again, so we've got an architectural landscape that has pretty complex in itself to manage all of these 3 different environments. Now, with that being said, this is where the multi-experience development platforms come in. And the number one goal, like I said earlier, it's simplifying the landscapes, both architecturally and development. And if you look here, this is Gartner's thing here. It's a product or suite of products that offer developers and potentially citizen developers an integrated set of front-end tools and back-end services that are scalable and fit for purpose across all of the different landscapes, whether it's mobile apps, responsive web, PWA, conversational, etc. And when you're looking at them, like I said earlier, it's from any data source using multiple security things. For example, if you don't have a single sign-on environment, you need to be able to get data from, let's just say, one system's using OXA, one system's using OAuth 2, being able to handle all of those tokens, managing, getting data from SOAP services, REST services, whatever's out there in the wild, XML. And it's all about simplifying all of that integration and bringing it together under a single integration tool set. And not only, is that tool set help gather the data, it simplifies it for the developers. Some of the things, for example, if you consume any of the vast technology adapters and things that are out there, but maybe consolidating it to REST APIs only out of the back end, and thus simplifying, from a development standpoint, you don't have to know all the different formats for SOAP or or XML or just a Java adapters, making it simpler. Now, using that, you've got to be able to develop pixel perfect applications, and preferably from a single code base. And in this case, that's where JavaScript comes in with VoltMX, because JavaScript is the primary tool and flow for the UI and for some of the simplification of the Foundry layer, which we'll talk about in a minute. But at the same time, using that single code base to get out to any device, whether it's a laptop, a tablet, a phone, a wearable, being able to extend and utilize your skills to enter into this whole other arena here. Now, from talking about VoltMX, and again, here, this is HCML's offering that allows you to get to any device, to any audience, from any data source. Now, from the benefits here, again, simplification is high on the list here. As I said earlier, again, from a UI UX and from an integration perspective, being able to improve the user experience for all of the users involved, whether it be an employee, a partner, a consumer, at the same time, increasing productivity, increasing the ROI and the return on investment and the total cost of ownership for the organization, and decreasing the application lifecycle. again, all of these benefits roll into one here. And under that, we start looking at Volt MX. It is a multi-channel platform. As again, I said, to any device. It increases developer productivity, resource utilization. It doesn't require as many skill sets. It does a lot to facilitate team collaboration between the developers and the business communities. It has the capabilities to bring in the audience for the application much sooner and involve them, which again, it helps the whole overall process, because as you collaborate with these business users and actually can show them your progress all along without having to go through the whole build cycle, and they become they take on more ownership roles, makes the UATs much better. From the any data source perspective, I mean, you see here the same things we talked about earlier. That is the Volt MX Foundry. It's enterprise grade middleware, which number one and overall is secure. This is one of the layers where we're adding in security and simplifying developers, because one of the aspects here is letting the middle tier manage all of your tokens and things, and then associate that with other tokens that go out to the actual applications. Never exposing your OAuth 2 or your Okta tokens out into the wild. Being able to do testing on the fly as you're doing this. Having, again, standardized REST APIs, having the ability to build an application data model, if needed, that is separate from the actual backend APIs, and being able to rewire it. Now, Foundry, by default, we're not introducing another data layer. We're doing over-the-air translation of data from the system of record out to the devices. You could add one if you wanted to support the application, but by default, this takes on, so you have less of the personal information or, the European data privacy rules and things in there as well. And at the same time, being able to introduce analytics, so you can actually see how long the API's calls are taking. Where's my apps being used at? There's a whole standard suite of analytics just built in and out of the box on that. And getting out, like I said, that's their Foundry layer, that's your integration. Now moving out to the UI UX in any device layer. So you can see here, you want to be able to deliver a pixel perfect design while at the same time seeing exactly what it looks like from inside the tooling. I can look and see if this is going to be on an iPhone 11, what's it going to look like, or an Android Google Pixel 3 or 12, whatever it may be. You can actually see it on the screen. So it's a WYSIWYG type design. Again, single code base, deep integration with Foundry to make it really easy and simple. The live preview I talked about, integrating AI into the design, and again, analytics and things play in here. Now, what does that do in the end? We're putting all these together to increase satisfaction. I mean, again, this is at any audience where it's increasing employee productivity by taking, one of their existing paper processes or more of a manual process and adding it to an application, bettering our consumer relationships. Good example here. We work a lot in the utility and industry sectors and help bring the consumers closer to the utilities and things for example, letting them report their outages or be able to use the geo-positioning, geo-coordinates on the phone to help through the process. Building deeper partner relationships. Again, it's all about that experience, because, I've been in this industry a long time, and as the younger generations come up and through, they expect so much more. And I know I'm even dating myself by saying Facebook and Instagram, setting the examples, because they've changed so much in moving forward today. But again, it's whatever that experience is, being able to deliver and adapt and change as the industry changes or as the expectations change. That's all part of what a multi-experience development platform can do for you. As we look through this, again, simplified digital transformation, reducing the time to market, increased collaboration between the stakeholders, efficiency, less security risk, and this unified experience across all of my digital touch points. You know, I'm back here to a happy developer and not one that's deflated through all of this. And, I'm sort of bringing this other one back together from the start of the presentation here, because it's all at your fingertips. Being able to do this from a single platform, and as the platform, allow it to do the things that it does well, such as we're looking forward into the future. We're looking there at, as the metaverse comes about, how are we going to, talk to it in the platform? As the new release of an iOS or an Android comes out, all you'll need to do is get the latest version of the platform and recompile it, because we've taken all of those into the account. So it brings so much to the table. Security, even. I mean, we're out there. We have a team sitting there looking at security, and we're watching for the bulletins and things that come out. And if there are any things ineffective, we're going to build that back into the platform and get you secured as fast as possible. If you want to know more about VoltMX, here's where to contact. I haven't been watching the Q&A panel so far. Cody, do we have any questions or anything coming in here?
So at this time, I'm not seeing any questions.
Guys, I'd be glad to answer any questions or anything you have if you would like to submit anything into the Q&A.
So while we wait for some questions to come in, how about I take this opportunity to remind everyone that this panel was recorded. So following this, you should be receiving a link to access the recording on demand. You can also find the recording living on the DevOps website at devops.com/webinars, and be sure to look in the on-demand section. So we do have a comment that says you can't forget about MySpace.
True.
And I'll also go ahead and give away a couple of gift cards. So our first winner of our $25 Amazon gift card drawing is Benny Y. Our second winner is David C. Our third winner is Gire P. And our fourth and final winner is Ansgar F. So to Benny, David, Gire, and Ansgar, congratulations. Keep an eye on your inbox to claim that gift card. But if you don't happen to see that email, please check your spam folder. Well, Daryl, I'm not seeing any more questions rolling in. So is there anything that you feel the audience needs to know before we leave, or any parting messages?
Guys, if you have interest in this here today, what's on the screen right now, if you go out to hclsoftware.com, as you can see on the screen here, you can add a trial version of the account. We do offer this as a fully functional trial that you can set up and utilize. And if you would like to be contacted from our sales team, please schedule a demo.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Daryl, for joining us today and for running us through. I'd like to thank HCL VoltMX for sponsoring today's webinar. And to our audience, we really appreciate you spending time with us this afternoon for me. So please, we ask for one extra moment of your time to fill out a brief post-webinar survey that should pop up on your screen here in just a moment. But otherwise, we do hope to see you at an upcoming Techstrong Learning workshop or webinar. Everyone have a great rest of your day. And Daryl, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Cody.